Date is December 7, 1941. Following Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States entered the war, and the conflict truly became a world war. In April 1942, the Imperial Japanese Army took control of the Philippines, seizing it from American forces. However, towards the end of the war, Japan was losing its dominance. Economic hardships made military administration difficult, and the territories they had won in the Pacific were being reclaimed one by American forces. Our story's hero, Hiro Onoda, would become one of the most extraordinary figures of this era. Age 22, Lieutenant Hiro Onoda graduated from the Nakano Military School in 1944. His training included guerrilla warfare, propaganda, and covert operations. But the most fundamental lesson he received was this: under no circumstances will you give up your own life on your own terms. On December 26, 1944, Onoda and 3 of his soldiers were sent to the small Lubang Island in the Philippines. Their commander's orders were clear: never surrender, survive for as long as possible, and buy time for the Japanese army to regroup. His commander had told him, "You will survive no matter what. We will eventually come back for you." These words would form the foundation of Onoda's 30-year resistance. In February 1945, American soldiers landed on Lubang Island. Following hours of intense bombardment, most of the Japanese soldiers were either killed or surrendered. But Onoda and his 3 soldiers, loyal to the orders they had received, escaped into the deep jungle and began their guerrilla warfare. In August 1945, the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki ended the war. But for Onoda and his friends, who had no knowledge that the war was over, the struggle continued. After the war, governments dropped leaflets from the air over the Pacific Islands, stating, "The war is over, go home." Onoda, remembering the propaganda lessons he had received at military school, believed these leaflets were an American trap. He tore them up and continued to fight. In 1949, one of his friends, Yuichi Akatsu, believing the war was truly over, surrendered. Onoda, however, thought he had been captured and killed. This event made them even more cautious. But for the local people, Onoda and his soldiers had become a nightmare. They were burning agricultural fields, stealing animals, and attacking innocent people. Time was passing, and the world was changing rapidly. But for the 2 soldiers on Lubang Island, the world was still in 1945. As a result of years of conflict, Onoda's soldiers, Shoichi Shimada, was killed in 1954, and Kenshichi Kozuka was killed in 1972. Now Hiro Onoda was left alone on the island. He had lost his last comrade, with whom he had fought for 28 years. Onoda was now alone, but his mission was not over. This solitude would become one of his greatest challenges. When the news of Kozuka's death reached Japan, the public was in shock. The government had announced years ago that Onoda was dead. But the news reports brought up the possibility that Onoda might still be alive. Onoda's story was associated with the traditional Japanese philosophy of Bushido, the way of the warrior. This philosophy taught moral principles such as loyalty, courage, and honor, where there was no place for fear. The legendary story of Onoda caught the attention of an adventurous young hippie named Noria Suzuki. In 1974, Suzuki went to Lubang Island to find him. When he found him in 4 days, he was facing a man with a rifle pointed at him. Suzuki told him that the war was over and everyone had gone home. However, Onoda said he would only surrender if he received an order from the commander who had sent him on the mission. Suzuki returned to Japan, found Onoda's retired commander, Major Yoshimi Taniguchi, and convinced him to go to the island. On March 9, 1974, Major Taniguchi gave Onoda his final command, 30 years after his first: "The war is over. Lay down your weapon." Onoda complied with this order and surrendered. He was 52 years old when he handed over his sword, his still functional rifle, 500 rounds of ammunition, and the dagger his mother had given him. For nearly 30 years, he had remained loyal to his duty no matter what. Onoda was greeted as a hero upon his return to Japan. However, he was uncomfortable with the modern values and consumer culture of his country. He rejected the offer to enter politics and did not accept the back pay offered by the government. Onoda moved to Brazil and later returned to Japan to found the Nature School training camp, where he taught children Japanese morality and survival skills. Hiro Onoda passed away in 2014 at the age of 91. His story continues to be remembered as one of the most compelling in the history of war, for his incredible sense of duty, loyalty, and honor. Perhaps Onoda knew the war was over but didn't want to accept it. Perhaps he feared seeing that the Japan he had fought for existed only in his memories. But despite everything, he proved the saying, "He who has a reason to live can bear almost anyhow," and made his mark in history.